What is a good investing platform to get started with if you're new to your investing journey? In this video, I'm going to cover two different types. The first is if you're completely new and you just want to give it a go, you're not really sure if you want to get into investing. And the second will be for people who are kind of sure that they want to get started and they want a long-term relationship investing and you want a more serious brokerage platform. So let's get into it. When you look at the investing platforms out there, they can usually fit into two different categories. There's the CHESS-sponsored ones and the custodian model types. The CHESS-sponsored ones are where you are the actual owner of the shares. The broker is just there to help you buy the shares, but once they've been purchased, they are held under your name at an independent location. With CHESS sponsorship, it's also much easier to move your shares between platforms. However, the brokerage is usually a little bit more expensive, and the minimum investment amount is $500. With the custodian models, you're not the actual owner of the shares. They're held by the broker and they're sort of assigned to you. The brokerage fees are usually a lot lower, if not free, but there are limitations in terms of the number of products that are usually available to purchase through those platforms, and also the complexity involved with maybe moving your shares between brokers. So that's something worth looking into a bit more if you are interested in those types of platforms. So some examples of custodian models would be the Concept Pocket app, Superhero, and the Vanguard Personal Investor platform. Concept Pocket app is good because it's quite easy to get started and it's quite a small amount that you need to invest with. However, it only has 7 options to get invested with. So there's actually over 2,000 things you can buy on the share market, but the Concept Pocket app will only have 7 to 10 in there. So it might be a good place to get started, to get a feel for this whole share market journey. And this is where initially I didn't understand why people were saying it's a good place to get started, get used to it. The reality is your activities on the share market will have no impact on the share market. To say the share market will do whatever it is and you're just jumping in and jumping out whenever you can. So the whole idea of getting started in investing, I think what people are trying to say is use these platforms to get used to the fact that you're going to put money into something. It's going to go up and down. There's nothing you can do about it. And that's okay because you're there for a long-term investment horizon. So if you want to get used to the share market and the volatility, the custodian models are good. Don't put a lot of money into them. Just put enough to get started, get a feel for it. But then, as I've said before, I would encourage you to consider something like a CHESS-sponsored platform because there's a lot more features, a lot more flexibility. However, you do need to be putting in a little bit more money per transaction. So moving on to the CHESS-sponsored platforms, these are the ones where you are the actual owner of the shares and you have voting rights, but you do have to pay a little bit more in terms of brokerage and the minimum investment amount. So currently I'm using CMC. I have used CommSec in the past and I've done a few videos on both of them. I can understand why someone might be more leaning towards Perla or Self-Wealth these days. They do have some nice features in terms of auto investing, but also community elements. Like I think with Perla, you can actually see who else is buying particular types of shares or the demographics, the statistics behind them, which is definitely not something you can see in CommSec or CMC. I would do a little bit more research in terms of the particular features you're looking for. So for me, I really just need something that's very cheap in terms of brokerage or if not free, and I'm happy to make the investments in my own time. I don't need something that's automatically doing it. And if I can be completely honest, I'm not too fussed what other people are doing in terms of other retail investors. Some of you might be wondering why I have CommSec in there. It is because I have a bit of a soft spot for them. They were there in the early days when I was trading under my mother's name, or my mum was investing in the share market. And the confidence that they have to still charge such high brokerage fees, even though there are all these better priced alternatives out there, just blows me away. But I also know it's such a strong brand name. A lot of people will still end up reverting to something like CommSec. You really can't go wrong with a CommSec. You're just paying a little bit more in brokerage than some of these other platforms out there. Really, all the CHESS-sponsored platforms are, I think, a fantastic starting point, even if you haven't been investing in the share market, because there's a greater element of community out there. But I know for some people, if you just have a very small amount of money that you just want to get started with, that's where the custodian type platforms might be handy. I would just encourage you, don't put too much into the custodian platforms because it might be a little bit tricky to get your money out of there down the track, and get a feel for it, but then look to the more CHESS-sponsored platforms for your longer term investing journey. And as always, work back from what you actually want to achieve. Do you want something that helps you automate your process? Do you want to minimize your fees? Do you want access to international markets? Once you have an idea of all those things, then you can do a quick side-by-side comparison for the particular platform you're interested in. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.